What if I told you that the perfume you're wearing today has its roots in the toilet crisis of French palaces? That's right. Chanel, Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, they all have their secret origins in the stench of human waste. Even more mind-blowing, do you know why women wear high heels? Because in medieval times, the streets were literally flooded with human excrement, and women had to wear tall heels to keep their dresses clean. And here's the kicker. The economic power behind the Roman Empire was a urine tax. Yes, they were literally making money from people's pee. By the end of this video, you'll understand why you should be grateful every single morning when you walk into your bathroom. Because the stories I'm about to tell you are so disgusting that you'll see modern toilet technology as nothing short of a miracle. If you don't want to miss these jaw-dropping facts, hit that like button right now and subscribe to our channel because this story is just getting started. Behind the Roman Empire's economic might were wars, trade routes, and human piss. You heard that right. Romans were literally striking gold from human urine. When Emperor Vespasian came to power in 69 AD, Rome's economy was in the toilet, pun intended. So what did he do? Raise taxes? Nope, he started taxing people's pee. This tax system they called URINE TAX. How did it work? Every morning, special urine collectors would go door to door. They'd gather the pee that had accumulated overnight, then sell it to laundries, tanneries, and even doctors. Because in Rome, human urine was considered a magical substance. Thanks to its ammonia content, clothes would turn sparkling white, leather would be processed to perfection, teeth would gain incredible whiteness, wounds would heal faster. Wealthy Roman women would rinse their mouths with human urine every morning. Urine from Spain was considered higher quality because people there ate more vegetation. When Vespasian's son criticized this tax, the emperor handed him a coin and said, "Pecunia non olet." Money doesn't stink. This phrase is still used today. This urine economy was so massive that Rome even had a special urine stock exchange called the bladder market. Daily urine prices were set here with categories based on quality. Premium category, young male urine, highest ammonia content. Mid-tier category, adult female urine, laundry quality. Low-grade category, elderly urine, agricultural fertilizer only. Some wealthy Romans even invested in urine. They'd store their own pee in special containers, let it concentrate for months, then sell it at premium prices. This system was so profitable that during Emperor Domitian's reign, a black market for urine emerged. People started selling fake mixtures instead of real urine. This led to the development of urine purity tests. One of the reasons for Rome's fall was the collapse of this urine economy. When barbarians invaded Rome, the urine collectors fled, the system collapsed, and the economic crisis deepened. This shows us that Rome didn't just grow through military might, but through the intelligence to turn every resource into economic value. This was the first example of what we now call the recycling economy. Now we come to history's biggest toilet scandal, the Palace of Versailles. This palace was so massive it was 56 times larger than Istanbul's Topkapi Palace. But here's the unbelievable truth. Until 1768, this giant palace had only one toilet. Picture this, 3,000 people living there but no toilets. So what did they do? They used chaises per se, chairs with holes in the middle. You'd put a basin underneath, do your business, then a servant would come and dump the basin's contents out the window onto the street. But here's the craziest part. The king did the same thing. In Louis XIV's personal diary, he writes, "This morning, during the levee ceremony, I relieved myself in front of 50 nobles. Just another normal day." Do you know what the levee ceremony was? The king's morning rising ritual. Nobles would line up to watch the king get out of bed, get dressed, eat breakfast, but part of the ceremony was also watching the king take a dump. The king would sit on his special chair, relieve himself in front of the nobles, then a special toilet attendant would come clean up. This was considered a display of the king's power. He was basically saying, even my crap is royal. But the most scandalous part, Queen Marie Antoinette's toilet crisis. In 1774, there was a grand feast at the palace. 200 noble guests, 12 hours of entertainment, but nowhere for any of them to go to the bathroom. The result? Guests started relieving themselves in corners of the palace behind curtains, even under the stairs. The palace was literally swimming in filth. After this incident, the queen found her solution elsewhere. Perfume! She brought in special perfume makers from Grasse to mask the entire palace's stench. They'd spray perfume 3 to 4 times a day. So much perfume was used at Versailles that the palace air became unbreathable. Some guests started getting perfume poisoning. But they still couldn't mask the stench. In 1768, they finally built a second toilet in the palace. But this toilet was only for the king. Everyone else continued using basins. This toilet was made so luxuriously gross. Gold-plated, diamond-studded silk curtains. The king even started holding toilet ceremonies in this special bathroom. When important guests visited, the king would receive them in his toilet. Political decisions and treaties were made in this bathroom. One of the causes of the French Revolution was this filth problem. While the people lived in filth on the streets, the palace elite's scandals like these drove the people to revolt. During the revolution, when the people stormed the Palace of Versailles, their first target was the king's toilet. They smashed the gold-plated toilet seat and scattered the pieces in the streets, a truly symbolic act. Today we know France is the perfume capital. Chanel No. 5, Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, but there's a very disgusting truth behind this industry's origins: the toilet problem. In the 16th century, European cities were drowning in filth. Paris was so bad that the streets were literally carpeted with human excrement. Waste dumped from houses had piled up in heaps. This stench problem didn't just affect the common people. It hit European nobility too. When Catherine de' Medici came from Italy to France, she fainted from Paris's smell. Italian cities were cleaner thanks to Roman ruins. Catherine found her solution by bringing Italian perfumer René Le Florentin. But faced with the magnitude of the problem, normal perfumes weren't enough. They needed scents so powerful they could overpower the stench of human waste. This is where the city of Grasse came into play. This small city in southern France was filled with lavender, roses, and jasmine. But these flowers weren't for perfume. They were used in leather tanning to mask bad odors. The craftsmen of Grasse made a discovery. If they extracted the essence of these flowers and mixed them with alcohol, they could create very powerful perfumes. The first perfumes were developed as defensive weapons against the stench of filth. These perfumes were so concentrated they were 10 times stronger than today's perfumes, because their purpose wasn't to smell nice, but to eliminate the stench of waste. In the 17th century, perfume use became mandatory at the Palace of Versailles. Anyone who had used the toilet and carried the stench had to use perfume. This exploded the demand for perfume. French nobles began competing with each other over perfume. Who was using more exotic, more powerful fragrances? This pushed perfumers to be more creative. In 1688, perfume geniuses like Jean-Baptiste Grenouille emerged. These guys started mixing not just flowers, but animal scents into perfumes too. Musk, amber, coconut. Something interesting happened during this period. French perfumers had gotten so good at masking the stench that they started focusing on creating pleasant scents. This is how the modern perfume industry was born. During Napoleon's era, perfume became not a luxury, but a necessity. Napoleon used 3 bottles of eau de cologne daily. Josephine used so much perfume that her rooms couldn't be entered without ventilation. This intense perfume use led to side effects, perfume allergies, headaches, even perfume addiction. Some noble ladies would spray perfume 20 to 30 times a day. Even today, the DNA of the French perfume industry carries this tradition of masking bad odors. Even the most sophisticated perfumes are actually products of this scent war. Today we wear high heels just for style. But the invention of high heels had a much more practical and disgusting reason: street filth. In medieval Europe, streets were literally open sewers. People would dump their toilet waste directly from their houses onto the streets. When it rained, this filth would turn into mud and stick to people's feet. The first high heels were invented for men. In 1599, when Iranian Shah Abbas's cavalry came to Europe, the special shoes of the horsemen caught attention. The heels of these shoes provided better grip with stirrups, but European men started using these high-heeled shoes for a completely different purpose: protection from street filth. The high heels kept the waste from sticking to their feet. During Louis XIV's reign, high heels became a status symbol at court. The king wore 12-centimeter high heels, but this wasn't to appear taller. It was to protect himself from the filthy floors of the palace. At the Palace of Versailles, due to toilet problems, the floors were constantly dirty. Noble men had to wear high heels too. Some even wore 20-centimeter heels. Women faced a different problem: their skirts. Long skirts would sweep up the streets' filth like brooms, so women had to wear even higher heels. In the 17th century in Venice, they invented Chopin shoes that could reach up to 50 centimeters in height. Women couldn't walk in these shoes and had to be supported with crutches. These extremely high heels were so dangerous that pregnant women were banned from wearing them because the risk of falling was too high. But they were the only solution for filthy streets. In England, the situation was even crazier. London streets had a mixture of horse manure, human excrement, and kitchen scraps, forming a muddy mess. So English noble women wore pattens, platform shoes. These platform shoes had metal frames and were 15 to 20 centimeters high. Metal supports were attached to the bottom of the shoes. This made walking difficult but protected from filth. An interesting development happened in the 18th century. High heels became exclusively for women. When cleaner streets developed, men gave up high heels, but women's fashion continued. During this period, high heels stopped being protection from filth and became a symbol of femininity, but their origin still lies hidden in filthy streets. Even today, the height obsession with high heels is a remnant of that era's need for protection from filth. Modern women may not know it, but the heels on their feet are actually the legacy of a historical war against filth. The summer of 1858 went down in history as London's worst-smelling summer. This disaster was called the Great Stink, and this event changed the toilet history of all Europe. London's population had reached 2.5 million by the 1850s, but the sewage system was still at medieval levels. People would dump their waste into septic pits, and when they filled up, they'd empty them into the Thames River. The summer of 1858 was hot. Temperatures exceeded 95 degrees Celsius, 35 degrees, and all the septic waste in the Thames River literally boiled. The river turned into an open sewer. The smell was so unbearable that Parliament sessions stopped. Westminster Palace windows were covered with lime-soaked cloths, but the smell still got in. MPs were holding lime-soaked handkerchiefs to their noses. Queen Victoria had to abandon her palaces near the Thames. Even London's wealthiest neighborhoods were evacuated. People were fleeing the city, temporarily living in the countryside. But here's the real disaster. This smell wasn't just uncomfortable, it was causing deadly disease. A cholera epidemic began. Hundreds of people were dying daily. The Thames's condition was so bad that there were no fish left in the river. They all died. The river's color changed from brown to black. It wasn't water flowing, it was liquid waste. At this point, Britain's greatest engineering project began. An engineer named Joseph Bazalgette stepped in. He was going to redesign all of London's sewage system from scratch. Bazalgette's plan was insane. 1,100 miles of sewage system, giant pipes that would carry all of London's waste outside the city. 6 main sewage lines. The project started in 1859 and took 6 years. 318 million bricks were used. 2.7 million tons of earth were excavated. It was the biggest construction project of its era. This system didn't just solve the smell problem, it turned London into the world's cleanest city. Cholera epidemics ended. Death rates dropped by 90%. Bazalgette's system was so perfect that it's still working today. 165 years later, it's still carrying London sewage. It's one of the modern world's greatest engineering marvels. After this project, all European cities copied the same system. Paris, Berlin, Vienna, they all adopted the London model. This is how modern urban planning was born. The Great Stink disaster was also the beginning of modern hygiene understanding. People realized that filth wasn't just uncomfortable, it was a cause of death. Hygiene education began. This event was also the first example of environmental consciousness. People realized that the waste they threw into nature came back to kill them. The roots of the modern environmental movement lie here. The lesson from these stories is clear. The toilet you use today is one of humanity's greatest miracles. We've left behind another one of history's forgotten, most extraordinary topics. I hope this was an episode you enjoyed. I'll determine this by looking at the like and subscriber numbers, and the topics will be shaped according to the figures I see. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover on our channel, please definitely share it in the comments. Take care of yourselves until our next surprising historical adventure. See you in the next video, and remember, every time you use the toilet, it's a historical miracle.